So just a quick update video for the 2020 After Effects training was something that I forgot to include, which was another masking method. So let's have a look. Okay, so I'm going to add a new composition, and I'm just going to bring in just an image. So let me just bring in yesterday's image of my dog, just because it's got a lot of colors and stuff. So there we go. We've got an image with we've got dark areas, we've got bright areas and stuff like that. There's a really cool method of masking that we can do, which uses that for masking. I'll show you the two different ways. I'm just going to create a text layer, but there's say track mat. So this is the thing that we're going to be doing now. It's called track mat. So I'm just going to make a big text layer. So if I zoom in over here, normally you'll see in your layer list over here all these options over here, but there's actually a whole a second set of options, and they're visible right at the bottom over here with a thing called toggle switches. If I click that, you'll see that we get a whole lot of different options over here. It says mode and track mat. Basically, it's just to make your life easier. You don't have to see all these options at once. The first thing over here with mode, that is your blending mode. So the same things that you used to in Photoshop, darken, multiply, overlay, soft light, all that is over here. So you can do all the stuff you would do in Photoshop with soft lighting your layers on top of each other or whatever. If you've ever wanted to use those are available there. So that's that mode list over here. I'm just going to put this back to normal. So these, just to show you again, if you don't see these options, just check your toggle switches modes thing over here. So that'll go between these buttons over here, which we'll look into a little bit later, or the modes and track mat switches over here. So track mat, as I wrote in the text, is another method of masking. So if I just zoom out over here and the track mat thing over here, if I go to the image over here with dog, and under the little option there for track mat, I click that and it says none at the moment. Let me just zoom in again. So track mat on the layer for the dog, you'll see that there isn't one for the other one. I'll explain why now. Click on none. You get now alpha mat, track mat, alpha inverted track mat, luma mat, track mat. And we're saying track mat over there. That's just the name of the layer that's directly above this. So I named it's named that because that's the text layer. Probably actually shouldn't have named this because it's probably a little confusing. Let's call this masking text. Just so you can see now that this layer is called masking text. If I go back to the dog layer over here, track mat, it says alpha mat masking text. It's always the layer that's directly above the layer that you're working on. So if I look at this masking text layer, there's no option for track mat over there because there isn't a layer above it in the layer list. So we can't do track mat on that layer because it doesn't have one above it. So if we go to the dog layer again and we select one of these options, alpha mat, that means transparency. So the alpha properties of the layer above will be used to mask this layer. So since we've got a text layer over here, which is just showing text in certain areas, if you try and imagine, it's now only going to mask out this dog image in the areas where that text is showing. So if I turn that on, a whole bunch of things will happen. And you'll see that, first of all, this layer has, we've got funny little icons over there for masks and stuff. And also it's hidden because there's no point in showing that layer because you won't see the layer underneath now because it'll just be covering it up. So it just hides it. And if we look at our image over here, we've got our layer over here is being masked by the text above it. So you can get some cool little effects of now if we like animate our position of our image underneath, we can get a little masked sort of animation of that, and it's way easier than going and masking these things yourself. You just use the properties of the layer above it. So in this case, we were using the alpha. So as I said, the transparency of the layer. So it's masking the dog layer with the transparency of the text. So that was the alpha matte. The name matte is basically, not matte, but matte with an E. It's just a term from old filmmaking things. They would use like photographic slides and pieces of glass with things painted on them, and they would call them mattes. So like they had background mattes and things like that. Don't worry about the naming. That's all it is. It's just think of it as a transparency layer or something. So alpha inverted will be the exact same thing, just flipped. It'll use the inverted version of the masking. So now this layer will be hidden everywhere that was being shown by the text. Same thing, just inverted. The other option here for things over here, we've got Luma Matte. So if I zoom in over there, so we've got Luma Matte. Basically, Luma is just Latin for brightness. So in this case, if I do it, it will look exactly the same because our text was white. So I say Luma Matte is just using the brightness of the layer above as a mask. So since it was white text, it's just masking out the white text over there. However, if we do it the other way around now, so I'm just going to swap the layers. I'm just going to turn track matte off, and I'm going to put the dog on top of the text. So now we've got dog on top, text below. If I do Luma Matte, you'll see now it's got the dog because the dog's above it. So we say Luma Matte dog, not giving us anything. Oh wait, the layer was hidden because we had done the track matching. That's why it automatically turns off the layer. So I just turned it back on, and now we've got this layer being masked. The text layer now is being masked by the brightness of the dog image, or whatever you put above it. So in this case, now we've got the text layer is being masked by the brightness of the colors in that image above it. So you can also do some cool effects to mask out things like that as well. Luma inverted will be the exact same thing, just flipped around, dark areas instead of light areas. So like you were asking there, do these techniques work the same over a video file? Yep. So if I just import a video file or an image sequence, so let's just do the image sequence from yesterday. So I'm importing image sequence, just making sure it's a sequence. That's basically a video in this case. If I use that, and then so we've got this After Effects training text over here being animated. If we bring in the dog now, put that underneath, and we do a track matte with Luma from the image sequence. If we play this back now, the dog will be revealed in the brightness of the animated thing above it. I can't do alpha matte because it's not a transparent video. It'll just all be visible because it's fully opaque, the entire image. So that's why I'm only doing Luma matte, because not all things have an alpha channel to them. So if I do Luma inverted now we're hiding areas of the dog with the brightness of the video above it. We can do the same thing inverted and use the brightness of the dog to show the other layer. Same sort of thing, but doesn't matter which one you use. Just remember, you can only do it with a layer above it. But it's a really nice way to animate masks and stuff, just with the brightness of another layer, or effects or something. You can animate with your video. You can mask out the brightness of something else. It can get super powerful to use that to do things. I'm sure you can think of many ways. I hope that makes sense. It's an often overlooked little method of masking things. All right, and that's it. And check you next time.